Okay, let's go live. So, hello everyone. So today we're going to discuss testing with Laura Beatris. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes,
Hey Laura.
exactly.
Laura,
Hi guys.
tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
So I'm a software engineer at BioD, and I'm also content creator at Hawksitch.
So
And I love testing.
what did make you love testing?
Actually, I always make the joke that I started to study tests when I got my first production bug. But the reason that I started to studying tests is really to work with a big team and be able to push things to production and be able to have a site reliable without having to I don't know, deal with a lot of fire at the same time. And testing, I think that is one of the core skills that every software engineer should have regarding of what is the language that you're using or what is the front-end framework that you are dealing with.
Yeah, and with big teams, it's also like a way to communicate, because I think I know a lot of teams who didn't write tests. At least in my career history, it was a big problem. We tried to fix it, and then even less teams write documentation. So tests are kind of a bridge that you can use it sort of like documentation when you write them well, when you write them clear. So a little bit of backstory. I actually decided to talk to Laura after talking to her in Twitter. She had an opinion that she actually have shown that she doesn't like nested describe blocks, and I see I have a couple of people from my course where I always show an example with a bunch of nesting, and I thought, interesting. Some people don't like it, and we began to talk and discuss how to approach structuring tests. And today I hope to see Laura's perspective on this. How does she structure tests? And maybe I will change my approach, or maybe we'll find out that it's also fine. Let's see.
Okay, let's do it.
So we can actually start with your project, okay?
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here.
I'm gonna also set up the full screen mode here. Change layout, spotlight. The screen is yours.
Okay, so I will show an open source project that I have and the test that I wrote for it. This is especially nice because usually with open source projects, you always have to have tests in there because your package is going to be used like I don't know for how many applications, and it's important to have a good layer of coverage and everything. So I'm going to show how I structured the tests and why I took a certain approach. So here, this is just a semantic thing. I usually start the name of the test folders with those slash here's just to be in the hood. So when the user gets to my repo, they have like, or the maintainer, a new maintainer gets to the repo, it already knows where is the test. And that's also a thing that I would like to mention that sometimes it's easier to place the test folder, the test file in the same folder, for instance, of a component. But sometimes it can be harder if you have like 100 components, if you're working on a project that has already a lot of time, and it's hard to go to every layer of folder to find a certain test. You have like VS Code search, but for time reasons, I think that is much more faster if you have the hood folder here. So here, um, this is the structure that I decided to approach. This is just to give an overview. This is a hook where you have an array of items and you are able to select certain items of an array. And in order to group the tests and based on the logic that the hook exposed, I decided first to group the tests based on the type of test. So usually we have like integration tests, we have end-to-end tests, and we have unit tests. And usually what unit tests are is really grabbing a function and making assertions according to a certain input and expecting some output of it.
Mm-hmm.
And since a hook, it's really a function. The tests that I wrote were basically unit tests here.
Laura,
Then I have,
can I have a question? With this approach, you have basically one test folder inside of your project. It's in the root, right?
yes.
And then under the unit, and maybe we can see it on the left that you have unit tests for the hooks, and then components probably contain more tests, or like why are not components inside of the unit folder?
Okay, good question. Really good question. This came from an experience that I had. Some time ago, I was kind of sending a PR to Next.js repo. I was doing like one of my first open source contribution,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw that there they have just components for the tests. Like, is really a component that is just going to be used for tests. And what I did here was I needed to test the async initialization of items.
Uh-huh.
And what I did was I created a component that just has an effect that loads up a promise and it sets the items asynchronously. So in that way, I prefer to set those components inside the test folders because they are just for tests.
Uh-huh. That's very interesting. Wait, are you using some like React hooks testing library, I guess? Why would you need this async initialization?
Um, the async initialization. Why I need that? Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, how do you use it? Can you show where async initialization is being used? Is it wrapping all the tests?
Okay. It's a thing related to the hook logic. So basically, here, for instance, uh, the logic of the user as I said is just to select the items of a certain array.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to show you that, I think that it's better if I show the live example. So
Yeah, that would be
can
awesome.
you can you see like the example here?
Uh,
Like
I still see the GitHub page.
okay, so I'm going to share another tab really quickly here. Let me just I don't know if it changes the string layout, but really quickly just
Yeah, it's fine. Take your time.
so now I think you can see it. So basically, the async initialization there was testing, for instance, when you have a request to the API when the component loads,
Mm-hmm.
and we still want that the hook works as expected. So and since like a lot of times we are in the front end, at least we are not dealing with hard coded data, especially data like travels, users, etc. That was one of the main things that I started to test because it's a really important use case. So here, basically, what I do is test if the async initialization is working. That async initialization here, which is, for instance, if I have an effect that specs a request,
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting that the items will be at a certain moment uh, shown in the component.
So it's more like an integration tests. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you sort of try
I
to
will.
test it with real data, as I understand now. Am I right?
Yes, yes,
That's cool.
yes.
Doesn't it slow down the tests, or it is not a concern, or it's a bigger concern that you have the correct expectations about the data that comes from the backend, right?
It depends like how the quantity of testing that you're running
Mm-hmm.
on the API. Like for instance, I don't know if you ever heard the polemic regarding to end-to-end tests are slow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was reading some days ago an article of Kinsey Dodds, like do you know Kinsey Dodds?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And then in his article he mentioned, and I think that really clicked for me, that was actually end-to-end tests are not slow because of the user interactions or the requests that you have to deal with, but it's mainly because sometimes you have a big layer of tests, like a huge quantity of use cases, but you are repeating steps in every single use case. So imagine that you're testing a user is filling a form and clicking submit and then dispatching a request to the server. And in every use case, in every block of test, you are repeating the process of the user going to each input and filling it. And actually the right case will be one test, just one test, that the user fill it manually, and then in the other test what it would be able to do was kind of just initialize the form or do the expectations that are really important and not repeat the logic
Mm-hmm.
in every single test case. So that's one of the things that I always think about when writing those integration or end-to-end tests.
Mm. In my experience, it's usually for end-to-end tests, the biggest problem is to initially set them up in the project, because usually it involves backend, and either you decide to mock it completely and then you end-to-end test only the front-end part, or if you don't do it, you will have to deal with cleaning up the database, adding proper fixtures so it loads in the proper state, and actually even for just as you said, so sometimes we need to group the tests, especially end-to-end tests, to run them efficiently. And then maybe you start the initial state to run those tests using fixtures, and you have to prepare all that on the backend. And a lot of time it's a lot of collaborations with backend developers, so it's a big endeavor to set it up, like the initial setup of the end-to-end tests.
Yes, and actually that's one of the things that I always also recommend when you're starting a front end project. If your team already has a culture like regarding to tests, it's really good to start setting up a test environment since the beginning, because when you start to add a lot of layers, especially like different libraries. For instance, usually in React projects, we have to do a lot of types of mocks to React router. If you're using a certain kind of state store library, you also have to mock those, or at least, I don't know. Um, there's a lot of things that you can start doing incrementally. So at some point, it won't broke everything, or it won't will kind of slow down the development process. But it's really interesting because I think that the base layer of every test in software engineer, doesn't matter the language, framework, or library, is how you're going to stub your requests, is how you're going to mock things, how you're going to structure tests. And then if you really know, if you have a good knowledge regarding to I forgot to also mention spies. So spies, mocks, stubs, if you know how to do those, this knowledge can be reused in every language and every library that you like start a project.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's really nice.
To be honest, with front-end and testing communication with the backend, when you have to work with responses and requests, I usually try to abstract it as early as possible so that my components have no idea that there is even such thing as internet. I usually create an API module, and then I have functions, and they just return a promise that either resolves with data or rejects with an error. Because I saw. Have you seen this library? Uh, what is it called? Mock service worker? Is it?
Mm, I usually
Mock
work
service worker.
in the front end. I usually work with Axios mock.
Can you maybe share the screen and show the project?
Yes. Let me see here.
I will give you the screen for now. By the way, we are getting questions, and I think in a few minutes we can pause for a while and answer a bunch of them.
Okay.
What do you think?
So that's the the project that I usually use, Axios mock adapter.
And use Axios. Nice.
Yeah, that's also usually this depends on the type of client that you're using. For instance, if you're using Apollo, if you're trying to step graphical requests, I'm going too far here, but if you use GraphQL, a lot of people are using nowadays, this is also going to change. But usually for Relay and Apollo, a lot of people already suffered from this, so you're going to find a lot of options. But Axios, actually, it's one of the famous that we use in front end, so this is a big one. But I also have another option that I would like to share that
Go ahead.
is basically one that you can use with Node in general. And I
Mock
think
fetch.
that it's called Sino.
Sign-on. Go ahead. I've heard about this one.
It's really, really good because it doesn't only work with stubs, so getting a request and returning a mock response, but it also works with spies and mocks. So it's everything that you need in order to create reliable tests without having to depend on external services, and also knowing if your functions are being correctly executed by making assertions with spies. So it's really famous. It's really, really famous. The docs are awesome. And you can really start a package.json, start a simple node project, and download this single package, and you can start using it. I think that besides Sino, you also have to install a library like Mocha, or just to have a test runner. But besides that, it's really simple. You can make stubs, you can make spies and everything, and it works in all of cases. It doesn't need to be just like Axios, because it's mostly going to work with classes in instances and everything. Um, so Sino is really good option too.
Does it support TypeScript?
I don't know if there's an option for TypeScript.
For me, it would be
actually.
a blocker, I think, if it doesn't support TypeScript, because most of my current projects they use TypeScript and I depend on it.
But there's an option with TypeScript that you can actually you're going to be able to use it. That would be really fine, but sure that you will lose all
Yeah.
the like the good things about TypeScript, but you're going to be able to use it anyway.
You know what?
So
Let's go to definitely typed and check if sign-on is there. I'm doing it now. Maybe yeah, you know what? It exists. Let me share the screen. What will happen if I say share now? You see my screen?
yes, I see.
Yeah, so there are types. Let's go to their GitHub.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of asking myself because Sinum is really popular, and so the types also should be really good.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot
Wait a
of types
second.
there. You're not going to find signals. Maybe if you search,
You
but
know
I think
what?
that the search.
Code sandbox. I'm gonna create a new sandbox, which will be based on TypeScript. How do I create? I'm just really curious. I don't know if you are, but I am.
I have a project on GitHub which really just uses Sino and Mocha. So let me just share the link with you. So I think it's going to be faster to show,
Yeah.
and also you can try it.
Okay. I'm not very savvy with. Okay, I see. Messages are here. Are you sending it in Twitter or what is going on?
I'm going to send maybe in Google Meeting, but because I don't have YouTube right now open to share with the chat, but you can share there with the chat. Let me just grab the and there's also test coverage, everything without using like integrated with Jest. I'm going to share here in the Google Meeting I've just sent you.
Yeah.
So I'm using Sino and I'm also using Istanbul.
Oh, I've heard
Istanbul is
about
the
it.
library that Jest uses behind the scenes to have like coverage. So you are able to set up test coverage without using specifically Jest. Like you can use it with Mocha and everything because Istanbul is a separate organization and uh, they are just focused on test coverage.
Do you mind if I run this project and we just explore it through VS Code? Because I see that it contains a bunch of interesting folders like end-to-end and code coverage and
Yeah, so
mocks and spies and stuff. Seems like it's a good.
that folder that folder is there's everything that I will actually that repo just to give a little bit of context is where I'm studying just vanilla JS like advanced things, and then I started to study tests without using React or other library, just like JavaScript, pure JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
So in those folders, it's just like three dependencies. I'm using Istanbul, I'm using Mocha, and I'm using Sino to do mocks, spies, and steps. And it's really everything that you need to learn in order to start like dealing with tests, mocks, spies, steps, code coverage, everything.
So do you mind if I clone it and we look at it through VS Code?
Yes,
Cool.
yes, totally.
So how do I do it? Terminal cd workspace git clone. That's really interesting. One thing that I don't really like about having the tests folder in the root is that you basically have to repeat the structure of the project. Can you like get confused, or how do you go around this? Or is it not a problem for you usually?
Um, Actually, this one I'm not repeating the structure of the project. It's like every folder there. If you see, like if you open objects, it's
Mm-hmm.
just a way that I'm having to like separate the subject that I'm studying. So every
Mm.
folder is a new thing that I'm studying JavaScript. So for instance, that one I'm just I don't know if you know. Actually, this is a really good thing to share. Node has a module called assert that you
Yeah.
are required there. And Node has already those modules enable you to test things without having to install a test runner. So this function, deep strict equal, is a function that compares two values, and if they are not equal, it's going to throw an error. So
This
the
is great.
difference between like using a test runner is that a test runner would give you a beautiful message, like a prettified message, but Node just like throws an error and that's it. But it's really good because I'm studying like JavaScript concepts there. I don't want to install anything. I just want to use my own environment, and then I'm able to set those functions that are going to be automatically executed, and they're going to run the tests for me. So that's a really great thing if you just want to like test simple functions that doesn't rely on external libraries, is just JavaScript.
That's so awesome. I really love it. And yeah, the syntax is that they provide for testing. Of course, it's not as developed as Jest, for example, or Mocha, but you walked around this using the comments, so you still know what you're testing. Cool. And
Yeah,
look,
this is really good for code interviews also.
this
So
might look unfamiliar also to some of the viewers that you just use block statements here.
yes, to kind of separate the closures, so
Mm-hmm.
the variables one collide, because since it's a function that is going to be automatically executed and it's going to share a context, we
Mm-hmm.
have to use those to separate the
Yeah,
context of execution.
this is clever. I actually one time I was writing a switch case, like switch, let's say something, and then inside of it, you know what? I forgot how to write switch case statements. I think it's done like this. Case something, and then you have break. And I was somehow used in the beginning of my career to just write case, and then break, and I think in the end there is default. And then at some point I was writing some code that was reusing the context, and then jokes on me, it was actually reusing it across a bunch of case statements. So you really have to wait what I'm doing. You really have to wrap everything inside of these case blocks into blocks, really. So it's
Yeah.
it's good to know that, yeah. And it's interesting that I think most of people, hey people who are watching us, let us know if this looked like object literal for you, because for me it definitely could. If I wouldn't know that in JavaScript it can be a block.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I don't know if like there's something like it in other languages, but since JavaScript has those context of executions, it's a really specific thing. So
So
yeah,
this is not the same as I'm trying to write something fancy here for no good reason. This, one this, and then here is gonna be, wait, another this.
yeah, it's different.
And this is still the same function. It is not another function or something. It's just another block with its own scope.
Yeah, it's another closure and so and every time that this function is going to execute, it's going to like have different closures, and that's JavaScript context magic happening behind the scenes.
That's so cool. Can we talk a little bit about your approach to testing? Yeah, and some people I think ask to share the repo. I think we'll add it
Okay.
to the description, right?
Yes. You
Wait,
can we can
I
link on
will
the
try.
description.
I will try to do it now. Okay. So what I would like to do is I'm adding it to the video description. So what I would like to do is to maybe try to write a very simple React component, and then try to write tests, because a lot of people struggle with just the very beginning when you've just created a test file and you don't know what to write, what to test in this component. What do you think about this?
Okay. Usually my approach, usually when I have I'm working and my manager like give me some new task, or I'm going to to the project dashboard and I grab a new ticket. So the first thing, if you're working on a front end project and you're going to do some tests and you don't know what to test, I think that the first thing that is important to remember is why we write tests in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we write tests is to really give us confidence and reliability to push things and to continue to iterating a project, a product. So what are going to be the main pieces of logic that are really going to be like the key things that the user is going to perform, and that it makes your project work. And you can then start to think about it and separate them in those groups of logics. And also, a cool thing that I was watching a video of Sensilikov, and he mentioned about if you're using, for instance, React library, React testing library,
Mm-hmm.
the goal of the library was to to make your tests be written like if you were performing the user's action, the user using your software. And think about when you're writing your test like if you were about to explain a feature to the user, and
Mm-hmm.
like click on the button, and then you're going to fill these inputs, and to create the project you just have to click on the button. And then after making those actions you make the assertion, because the action just finished. So that's one of the things that I try to always remember when I'm writing my tests.
Uh, l- Great. I was actually showing, was trying to show it in sync while you were saying this. I don't know if I succeeded. Hopefully so. But I'm gonna invite you to the code sandbox, and we will invent some very simple component. I've already started to bootstrap it. I think we'll have an input that will affect the text, and maybe it will change the header of the component. But if you have some better ideas, I'm very much open to it. Do you know how can I share it with you?
I think that every code sandbox is public, but in the
Live.
top of your screen, in the like your avatar, there is a share button in the top.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And how do I do it? Using copy sandbox link, and I'm gonna go back to our what? That's not what I expected. Okay, I go here, and I give you the link.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so you're here. Let's meet in the app. Cool.
It's loading right now, and yeah, I'm now seeing you typing.
That's nice. So what do you think? We have an input. We are gonna have an input. We probably are gonna have a button. I'm thinking about something that would store state, render something, and react on a button click. So there is a variety of different aspects to this component. What do you think?
Nice, nice. Let's go with it. It's a good one.
I don't want to make the button do the alert, but maybe clear, remove, delete the text, clear the input.
Clear the input. Yeah.
I don't want to use it, the inline function. On change. And here we'll set text. I don't think this step when we just write the component is interesting. So we're gonna work together on tests. That's gonna be fun. Set text. I don't know how good this idea is to use the target directly. Okay, let's say we have on change. What is wrong? I'm doing something stupid. JSX attributes must only be assigned a non-empty expression. What is going on? Okay, I am very confused. Laura, are you confused? Laura, are you with us?
Sorry. My microphone was muted.
Don't scare
So
me like this.
I'm confused because I don't know if there's a sandbox issue. Um, or a name conflict. I don't know. On change isn't like a reserved name.
No, it's not.
It
Just in case, let's rename it. Wait a second. What? Wait. What now? Is declared, but its value is never read. Okay, that's fine. We can live with this. Now let's say on change. Maybe I was making a typo. What is going on? I think it's gods of streaming or something messing up with us. Must only be a... people in the comments, we request your help and assistance. Please, if you have seen the error, parsing error JSX attributes must only be assigned blah blah blah, yada yada. On
try
change
try
text.
to reload the code sandbox. I don't know.
Yeah, let's do it. But if you also see this error, you also are in this sandbox, then my attempts will be futile. What?
Oh, yeah.
Now it's fine.
So,
okay, thank you. Good idea. Good job. Teamwork.
Sandbox always have these glitches, especially because I think that I'm on it. So we are both in the same sandbox, and there will be some lag.
Yeah, that might be this. But I think Code Sandbox is super impressive. It works very fast. I can't imagine how many sandbox do they have at the same time. That's very impressive.
Yes.
Set text. You see what I'm doing, right?
Yes.
I think we're very... Okay, I'm gonna reload this thing again. And with a bit of luck, we'll have it. Okay. Clear the input. Good. Now our component does something. What would be your approach? Let's do it like this. You test this component, then I test this component. I think it's a good practice. And then we try to compare it and what kind of benefits can we get from each of the approaches, and we maybe even create some note and share it with the viewers. I think that would be cool. What do you think?
Okay, nice approach. So the first thing that I would ask myself is, what is the key functionality in there? Is clear the input, right? So in that way, first thing, test this action, this logic.
Sorry, I think that storing input is also part of our functionality because we wrote it. Even though it's kind of default for the input, if we wouldn't have these things, it would work just like it should because it's browser functionality. But as we actually overrode it, I think it's also another crucial part of the functionality.
Yes. Good one. Good catch. The other thing is there like, how can I say, a case, any specific case, an action that the user would perform and break? Something like that. It's also good to think like edge cases. Yeah, I found the right word. So edge cases. I don't think there is one edge case there, but
usually it's some extreme values, like for example, test with an empty input, test with null as input, test as with number, test with the biggest number you can possibly enter in this input, like edge cases.
Nice thing. Also, it's important to think about the states of the UI, because we are in React, right? So what are going to be these states? You just mentioned it, like, what are going to be these states of the UI that the component interacts with, the component changes, and you have to like to test every state of the UI. There's also like one thing that I like to think is mainly regarding to data. So usually when you are dealing with the input, so right now there's an input there. What are going to be the possible inputs, like what happens with this input here, with if the user types this amount of data, and what happens if the user just like tries to clean the input with nothing, like, so we can also like add some validation to it. I don't know.
Yeah, while you
That
were talking, I've added this. You see this? If we have text, we have a paragraph. So we've added some complexity in UI state because I think it's a great idea that you had.
nice.
So let's begin planning. I think. Wait a second. I'm assuming stuff. Do you usually start with planning, or you just start poking around with it and covering it slowly with tests, or like what is your approach? I'm really curious.
I start planning. So the first thing actually, when thinking about the daily job of a software engineer, um, when you have some task and I first read the ticket, I first read the feature that I have to do or kind of refactor, and then I think, okay, so what are the tests that I need to do in order for me to say that this is done? I'm confident that this is done. So I start to planning all the use cases first, and you can do that exactly by your like, I don't know if that's what you're going to do, but writing comments or writing in a note block, like what are going to be the use cases. That's
Uh,
also one uh,
I have a question. Can I have a question? So am I naming the component correctly? If I want to test it like this, or should I call it up test JS? Oh, test, right?
Yeah, usually test is good because you know that it's you're explicitly like giving a name that the maintainer would read and say, okay, this is a test.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah. Imagine you're in the project in VS Code and you're using the project-wide search feature, and then you search for app and you find two apps. Yeah, one is in tests, but for a second you're confused, right? So that's a good idea to call it app test.js. Okay, so let's do pair programming. I'm gonna be writing, you're gonna be driving. What do you think?
Okay, let's go with it.
First, the notes.
Okay, so first thing we are going to test if the test is showing.
Yeah, the component is showing.
Yeah, the component. Okay, the component is handling the text typed by the user.
Yeah. The component handles. We can write it in plain English. We don't have to be very formal about it, right? And at this stage, handles text changes. Then upon on button click, input is cleared. Am I missing? I think I'm missing stuff. What else do we have? Actually, I think let's accept suggestions from the audience.
Yes.
Hello, audience.
Please give us suggestions.
Yeah, please give us suggestions. What do you think we should test as well? What do you see in this component that needs to be covered? Right now we have three things. The component needs to be rendered because it's a visual component. The component handles the text changes. That's my contribution that I've noticed that we actually have this functionality written by us. And then on button click, the input is cleared. There is a delay, like 20-30 seconds, so we'll have to wait until someone comes up with an idea.
Also, there's like some cases where we can use a spy and you can assert like, was this handler called? So I don't think that this would be the case because it's just an event handler.
We can do it. We can actually do it, Laura. On clear, you know what? Let's make it submit the input.
Oh, nice. Using properties and then we do an assertion.
Exactly. Okay. I think it's good if we, I don't know, there is a limit up until which it's a good idea to add more features to this component, but I think we're still below this threshold, right?
Yeah, that's a nice addition. I think that on submit,
But I
and then
think
we
I'm
can also
inconsistent.
verify like you can also verify like if this is an option property, then um, this wouldn't be. We can use optional chaining. So you just need to do like instead of using a conditional, you can just use handle submit, and then you can use a dot and I think exclamation. Yeah.
Exclamation, I think it's type, how is it called? It is JavaScript, not
I don't
TypeScript.
know how it is in English, but it's the other one. It's that one, I think.
Pode
Uh,
dizer em português.
in Portuguese, it's called exclamação.
Exclamação.
So
Okay, but it's not an optional chaining. I think question mark is optional chaining, and exclamation mark kind of says it is there, it cannot be undefined. At least in TypeScript, it's like this.
oh, actually, I messed up the name of the word even in Portuguese, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, I think that that's the right one for optional chaining. I don't know. It's that working or not,
No,
but
I think it doesn't. Why? Unexpected.
I don't know
No, probably not.
if
They're not gonna.
the inverse. But I know that there is a way to use optional chaining to execute functions because
Okay.
I used that today in the code base that I was working. Um, but yeah, it doesn't matter. I think that for this one, let's just go with conditional. It's just
We can also do another thing. It is JavaScript, so we cannot guarantee or force users to provide the handle submit. But I think we can provide the default value here, handle submit, and by default it's going to be void function. Please don't say me there is
okay.
another syntax error with this. A disclaimer, I have no idea how to program. Apparently.
Code sandbox are trying to make you feel like an imposter.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just pretending. I've remembered a bunch of words like React, fixture, Ruby. Do I look like a program? Yeah, look, it's doing it again. Now it's fine. Yeah, so we're not going to check that handle submit exists, but it's a good thing to as you said, Laura, that it's to implement spies or to use them in our tests. So I like it.
Yes.
Now I have handle submit with default. Yeah, so we still don't have any suggestions from the audience. So okay, whatever.
Let's try it, like initialization. I think that would be cool, like another property initializing the input or something like that.
Initial text. And by default, it's gonna be hello, Laura. Okay, do I have to reload the page? I probably do. That's gonna be a new habit after this stream, that I'm gonna reload the page every time I do something. Okay, we have initial text, and then we set it as initial text on the hook.
We can. I think I just had a nice idea. I don't know if that would be too difficult to do right now, but you know those fake APIs that they have like funny phrases. We
Yeah.
can be able to fetch that on the amount of the component and fill the input, and then we'll be able to do like step mocks and everything. Would be nice.
Okay, we're moving one step at a time. We still haven't started writing tests at all, but okay, it's fun. Let's do it. I like this idea. I'm gonna define an API module. I'm gonna copy the Chuck Norris API. I actually like it. I have used it in my course a bunch of times. So Anton, if you're still watching the stream, you probably remember this thingy. Anyway, let's define. I would define an API module right now. So I would create new file,
Yes.
api.js. I would export. Why did I do this?
JX.
Exactly. It's not
It's
JS.
a new language.
Yeah. Export const an arrow function that returns fetch, and here we just call this jokes random. Then res JSON, and I think it's enough. I'm pretty sure my syntax is fine. Code sandbox is still messing with us. No, it's not. How do we call it? Get jokes random. So lately I've picked up this new habit of calling the function that is gonna fetch the data according to the path. So for example, if the API path is jokes random, then it's gonna be get jokes random. I don't know if telling what will be the method is a good idea. So if we would be posting, you can guess that I would use post joke new. That would be the function name. But so far, so good, and I like this approach. What do you think?
That's a nice practice, because especially if you are working like with other developers, the things that you can do to avoid having questions regarding to naming nomenclature, it's always welcome, and that's one of the things that you can do. So really nice. I didn't know about that though. Very cool.
It's a new thing for me as well. I think it's just a few months that I realized, okay, we actually have one thing that is data that comes from the backend. They already have named it. They did the job. And now we can try be consistent and continue this naming convention in our API functions that abstract that's what I was talking about. The function that abstracts the request. So now, as we already parse the response as a JSON, our component won't even know that there is a request, response, internet, whatever, World Wide Web, anything.
Nice.
Oh wait, get jokes random. I forgot the equal sign. No, it's fine. Okay. Now, what did you want to do? You wanted to make the initial text to be fetched from the state. Whoa, that's interesting. You know how I would approach it? I would actually just create a custom hook probably now. Okay. Okay, this is what we do. But now our component is really gonna be a bit tough to test, because when you have synchronicity and especially side effects, it's getting tough. Wait, what? So here we have an async function that is gonna do the job, and then here we're gonna call it immediately. So it's immediately invoked a synchronous function. I like it. I used to have named functions inside of use effects, but now I'm like, why? Why do I have a new name here?
Actually, there is a reason to have functions with names in use effect, and I discovered last week. When you're declaring named functions, regular functions inside use effects, and for instance, this is an asynchronous function, and you have an error that it's an exception. In the stack trace, the name of the function inside of the use effect is going to be mentioned, so you know where to find the error. And if you're using a function, you're not going to know where it is. So
yeah, let's remake it. Fetch text. Actually, in the context of this component, it's not a joke, it's a text. It's only for the API, it's already a joke. So I don't know if it makes sense, whatever I said. In my head, it had. Okay. So here we set text and we await get, how did I call it? Get jokes random. And there will also be an object. Let's see, what does this thing return? I don't remember exactly what is going to be the value. I think it's an object with the field message or text or body. Value. It's going to be value. Actually, we only care about the value, so I'm going to make our job a little bit easier and do this. Was it a bad idea?
I think that the error it is because it isn't an auto executed function anymore. So I have
Yeah.
to remove the
Okay,
nice.
should be good now. No, but bro, it's still messing with me. It's it's really lagging behind the latest changes of the in the code. Mm, I think we're going to be done with the component itself now, so we can pause and try to answer at least some questions, and then we can move on to the tests.
Yes.
Uh, Wait, initial text, fetch text, and yeah, I forgot to call it. And getJokesRandom needs to be imported.
So that would be like two cases for me. First, if it is a provided, if the component receives the initial text property statically, so that means that it wouldn't need to, for instance, asynchronously initialize from the API, or we would have the option to just um, initialize from the API. I don't know. What do you think?
Mm,
We already have like the initial text there, or we can just remove it and we can stick to just one type of initialization, which is from the
yeah,
API.
let's do it. Let's stick with one type. It's so already quite complex.
Okay.
And it didn't work. Set text, getJokesRandom.
I think that is there a good way for you to for us to restore the text if it's not working?
Oh, yes, yes,
Because
yes, TDD. Yes. And there was a question in the chat. Let's assume that we are answering the question about TDD and if it's easy to use with React. Let's see.
okay.
That's actually a fantastic idea.
Um, I usually work with TDD in some specific situations. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, when I already have the skeleton of the component, um, and usually what I have to do is then start to creating the logic. So first create the skeleton of the component, the JSX that is going to return it, and then when it starts to get like the point that you're creating state management, handlers, and everything, you will start writing your tests. And then after writing those tests, you go to the component and you start writing the state management logic. You start writing the
Uh-huh.
handlers. So that's usually what. And also one thing that I read last week on a tweet was you can also use TDD to fix bugs. That's really really nice because you already know what's happening. You already know maybe it's an edge case that the developer didn't coverage. So one way to go is instead of going straight like to the code base to the file is to write a test which is going to ensure that it's not going to happen again,
Mm-hmm.
and then you work to make that test pass, which means that you're going to fix the bug. And by doing the test, you're also making one more layer of protection because this is not going to happen again if the
Exactly.
test is correct.
Yeah. It's not going to happen again. Can you am I starting it correctly? So describe, and now we're gonna test what?
The component should initialize the text and
Yeah, it's hard to formulate. You know how I would go? I would probably say upon mounting component, it fetches the data and then sets the value of the input to it.
so there's also like a polemic. People say that uh, do you know like BDD?
Yeah, behavior
Um,
driving development. Hmm.
so usually some teams, they prefer to just name the test based on behavior without like mentioning API terms or like library details. For me, I'm a little bit mixed. I don't know. I don't follow BD strictly because in a developer side, for me, it's easier. It's faster to read on mount, and I know that this is going to happen on mount. It's faster for me. So it also depends on the way that your team works, but we can also talk also about test styles. So you are now using declarative
Mm-hmm.
style because and like fetches. Usually, there's also should fetch, and there's also the imperative style, which would be
Can I demonstrate
fetch
somehow? So it, let's do it with should first. Should fetch.
should That's the declarative one, and then there's the imperative one, which is fetch the input. So
What?
I
Fetched?
usually see more fetch, yeah. For instance, when you have an action that is not allowed to happen, people use do not fetch. That's the imperative one. And with the declarative one would be shouldn't fetch. So there's also those differences, and when you work as a team, you also have to discuss what is going to be the best, what is
Yeah.
the the better. For me, I usually prefer the imperative because yeah, I have to write less. I don't
Uh-huh.
have to write like should. It's just fetch.
I don't like shoes.
Do not.
You know why? Because when you describe something, I don't want to say what it should do or supposed to do or maybe could do. Like, there is this matter of um, some weird kind of concern that shouldn't be there. It either fetch, but I prefer this one because it reads with the it. That's the only reason why I like it fetches the input instead of it fetch the input. Like that's
Yes,
the
but
only reason, the it.
I think that the first one is also imperative. Yeah, I said wrong. So the first and the last one is imperative because you're saying it fetch. You're not saying it should fetch. So for me, both are totally fine.
Okay, my keyboard stopped listening to me and I accidentally removed the thing that I wrote. Can you excuse me for one minute? A quick 1 minute break. Fine? Okay?
Yeah, fine, fine.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm back.
Okay.
So, can you say what is the declarative way to describe tests then?
So the declarative one is the should, but the last one you mentioned like it fetch. Uh, Previously I said that it was declarative, but no, this is also imperative.
So we both like
Um,
imperative. We just formulated a bit differently.
so both are imperative,
Mm-hmm.
but it also changes because you're using each, right? Jazz also has test.
And you would
Each
use
is
test.
yeah. So here you will use test because it's
Uh-huh.
test fetch, and each maybe there's these different styles. Also, if you're using Mocha has an API that is more driven to this difference of imperative and declarative. And there is also like a bunch of articles where people really like discuss what is better for you, declarative or imperative approach. But I personally
Yeah.
think that it's more developer side, developer experience. Which one
Exactly.
sounds
It
better
doesn't
for
it
you?
doesn't matter. Look at the line length, the string length.
Yes.
Exactly the same. It compensates the ES with the ST or like whatever. I think it's a bit funny. Okay, let's go with the test. I don't know. I like to try new things. So test to do test that it okay. I'm really not used to it. I'm trying to say in my head what is going because for example, when I write these to-dos, I like to start with to-dos and first plan the tests. I start, okay, describe app, on mount, it fetches the input value from the API. I kind of tell the story to myself about this component. A little component, once upon a time, a little component was living in the woods, something like this. But now I'm really confused. My brain is jamming itself like, it to do. Whatever. Let's
But
continue.
you see, like that's the one that works for you. So if you were watching right now and you have like which one should I use, it's exactly like it. Like what is the one that is going to make you feel better in terms of understanding what you're testing. So
Yeah.
just go for it, and that's it.
Whatever is more comfortable. It doesn't really matter which syntax to use because even the should syntax, because I think it comes from the C sharp, given when then and also I think I'm mixing up stuff. Don't listen to me. Wait, I think it's actually the same culture. Anyone from the audience, correct me if I'm just saying nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know nothing about C, so I can't confirm it, but would be interesting to know.
So we test that it fetches the input value from the. Okay, it's starting to make sense in my head. I think I'm getting used to it. Test fetch the input value from the API.
Okay, so first thing, fetch the input value from the API. So API, it's an external service. Do not test external services in your tests. So right now is the part where we would mock, and there's different ways to mock it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can mock the fetch API from the fetch API with, I think that there's no need to install a package, right? I think that you can
Yeah, we can just do
use.
just mock, and then I say what I'm gonna mock, and I think it's gonna be API, and then wait, what? And then here I'm gonna define a function that will override the export,
Yeah.
and then
So
here,
in Jest, what I love about Jest is that it's really simple to mock an import module, and you can perform everything. So if you're using Fetch API, just use jest.mock and return a different function from your module.
yeah, like I did here. Is it correct? For me, it looks quite correct.
Yeah, it is correct.
I messed up with something. Maybe it's code sandbox. By the way, can you please go to apptest.js and check if you have the same error here? I'm trying to figure out what's
Okay,
going on.
let me see here. I've closed it before just to see if the error would stop,
It didn't.
but it didn't work, so
Yeah.
that's not related that we are sharing the. Let me see here. It's loading.
Uh huh. I'm gonna reload the page. Reload the page.
For me, actually, I can see the mock. I don't know. Did you save it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did. Okay, let's give up. Uh, what is it saying? Passing error and expected token, comma. I probably messed up with some brackets.
So
This one, this. Yeah,
just
yeah. My bad. It's my bad. It's not code sandbox. It's me.
okay. So now I think that we can create a variable to make an expectation based on the text, right? So uh, create a context like test joke, um,
You know
and then
what,
we can.
Laura? Sorry to interrupt, but here I think I did a bad service for us because I've mocked the API with an actual function, and now we cannot override it really, or it will be very
Oh,
uncomfortable. So instead, what we should really do, we should do this.
yes, it's a spy, and then with Jest, you're able to do a method called
Mock
I
implementation, I think.
forgot it's yeah, mock implementation value, and you can specify exactly. Um,
In each test method.
right, I think that you can, yeah, that one. So mock implementation. I think there's also mock implementation value. I don't know.
Uh,
What
it's not
what is the
suggesting mock implement. Maybe there is. Let's try mock implementation. Mock implementation value, you said, right? And then I
Yeah,
just
I'm to share here just to confirm, but we can continue writing and then we fix it later. And we can then assert that it's called on the component now.
that is called where? Wait, are we running the tests?
Oh,
Yes, we are.
nice.
That's good.
I didn't know about this tab, the in the code sandbox. Nice.
Did you know about this extension? So do you have specs that use jest? Maybe here. No, you use this low-level thing, but you probably have it maybe.
I use
No.
Mocha in one of them actually. If you
No, I
search.
need jest. You know why? Because installing
Okay, it's
extensions.
Jest extension, right? Okay.
I want to recommend it to the viewers. Look at this. Maybe you probably know about this, right? From Orta.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's fantastic. Look, they have this thing here. A lot of people actually asked me in my videos, how did I do these little icons on the tests? Look at this. It should show them. Oh, here it is. If the test passes, you see the green circle here. That's because the thing actually runs just in the background and checks your tests. But whatever. Let's go back. There is no such thing here. What is going on? I'm lost. Here you go. By the way, they have command line here,
Yes,
but they
yes.
cannot install extensions, unfortunately. I was surprised to know
So,
that it's based on VS Code. Actually, this whole thing, it's VS Code.
yes. So the correct method actually there's different one. There's mock implementation that is going like to return a value for to every spy call. There's also mock return value once, and there's mock return value. So mock return value, you just need to put a value there, and it will works. So
Yeah,
um,
done. Oh, actually, we have a
yeah.
question. Why not object with the joke value? I'm gonna quickly show why. That's because I already used the value from the JSON. I'm being very risky here because the API could also return an error. I'm not handling them for now. It's just because we want to be brief. I don't know, is this the right word?
Yes.
Anyway, let's continue. Sorry for interruption.
So now we can render the component.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and there's also like a lot of good practices there. While you import a module, I'm going to talk about it. So I also was reading some things of the documentation of testing library. The things that they usually talk is when you are rendering a component, React testing library exposes to you different types of carries. We are going to use it right now, but the point is that every time that you render, it returns a carry. And imagine that you work in a code base where if you want to add a new assertion, you would have to go to the structure and you will have to grab a new carry. So get text or something like that.
Or container, for example, like I did here to check that container has the proper value or something.
So what I would recommend, or what is recommended, is instead of grabbing the return value, you can import a screen. The screen module, it has every carry that it's exposed based on the handler of the component, and then you are able to use everything. You don't need to destructure and like make some diffs
Mm-hmm.
in a pull request, for instance, if you're adding a new carry, because it's already everything is exposed, so it's much more flexible. In this case, we are already handled the app, so right now we would be able to do screen dot find,
Mm-hmm.
screen dot find by text, for instance.
Oh, and we finally get the suggestions. That's very nice. By the way, regarding this return values, I can explain why did I get a habit of just getting them from render. I prefer this mostly because, how to explain? That's this sense of keeping everything limited to this particular case as much as I could, so that I don't have to constantly jump, okay, where does the screen come from? Where does the find by text come from? I can just look at the specific case. I usually try to keep them very, very small. And yeah, it's less flexible, but in my head, I just, to be honest, I just feel safer. Maybe it's inadequate and maybe it doesn't make sense, but just makes me feel cozy.
Yes, because actually I saw some cases that in the code base that I was working, where we had like name conflicts in the same test case. Like if we use the get by text for two different selections, or we want to like destructure a handler another thing, and we would conflict because like two handlers in the same in the same block would conflict the name of the variable. So that's why we started to use a screen,
Mm-hmm.
because it would avoid those conflicts. But that's it's a nice practice, and it's not like I've read that it's in terms of like recommendation of the library is just a good thing to know. It's not like that you're, if you're not doing this, you are wrong.
And a
It's
bad
just
person.
yeah, yeah, you are a bad person because you're not using a screen.
Yeah, of course.
So here we are using find. I think that is good to explain why find and not, for instance, the other carries. If the people that are watching right now aren't using to or use it to the React testing library API.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Actually, we can open the testing library. And what I like about testing library, if you compare it to what is it, enzyme, is that the surface of this library is very, very small and it's easily memorable. Where is the React? Do you see it? Yeah, we're here. So tap API, and we have everything on the right. So we have me confused. That's what we have. We go to queries. Where did they have it explained?
So if you search,
Yes.
you can, yes, exactly, that one. It's amazing. They show like the priority of tests. What are the tests? The tests. Sorry, no, the priority of carries.
Mm-hmm.
So what like are the, like you are now seeing like types of carries. So it explains each one, and then below, it also shows the priority, which is like uh what are the, now that you know what is getBy, now that you know what is findBy, which carry should you choose? And they have like this thought of, since we are thinking about the user actions, we also have to think about how the user interacts with the interface. So they recommend using also interactive carries, such as getting the elements by whole or getting by label text and everything.
I usually
So
like to
that's
get by text, to be honest. Like, so the idea here is that we combine the get by, find by, query by with, or get all by, and the all variations of those queries with the thing that we're trying to get, find, or query. So, for example, get by text can be also find by text, can be also query by text, or it can be get by label text, and so on. So you get the idea. I really like it because if you open enzyme, let's do it. Enzyme. And that's actually the reason why I prefer... okay, of course we get those enzymes. It's like celery. Have you worked with celery? It's
yes,
another...
yes.
Probably every time you Google documentation, you find celery as a vegetable. So they have a site. Look at this.
Yeah, it's huge.
How are we supposed to remember and comprehend, like even find out that you're not using the proper method? Like it's unexplorable.
Yes, I've used enzyme when I started to work with React back in, I think was 2018, and for me as a beginner it was really hard because it's not an API that reminds the user actions. So for instance, like getBy text, it's kind of, I don't know, but the naming of the testing library, and also what you've just said, like there is I'm also going to use the term that you supplying, like testing library is a shallow API. It doesn't expose a lot of complex things, and look at it, like it's hindering a component but it's using shallow.
Yeah, and it's basically hiding the implementation. So shallow rendering in case of enzyme means that we're only rendering one level. So every component that is inside of this my component is going to be rendered as an element of this name, which is not true. Your users that are going to use this component in real application are going to render the whole tree. And yes, it's much easier to do it like this. And if you're used to enzyme and using shallow rendering, then for a while you will have hard time using React testing library because you will have to relearn it. And always remember that yes, I'm rendering the whole subtree of this component. There are ways around it. First one is to just acceptance. You're like, not acceptance testing, but acceptance in a way that, all right, I'm always rendering the whole subtree. And you need to provide all the dependencies. And then if one of the components is using, for example, link from React Router DOM, then yes, you render the whole thing into a provider because one of the little dependency components is requiring it. Another thing you can do is to mock the child components, the children components. Laura, what way do you like more? What do you usually do when your components is very complex and you cannot do shallow? What is your approach around it? Do you mock or do you just render the whole tree?
Actually, I prefer to mock. Yeah.
Me, same here. I also like to just... mostly, yeah. In most cases, I also just mock the dependent components. It's done the same way as we mock the API. You just do just mock, then use, let's say, example component. Let's say our app would use it inside of it. And then inside of it, you return a value. Let's imagine that we have the named expert example component, and then we render a div or fragment, yes. Actually. Yeah, and here you go. This is how you mock it. Actually, again, I did the same mistake. I'm trying to relearn to always mock it using just a fan because then I have flexibility of redefining it, and you can still use mock return value once, but now instead of returning a string, you're returning a you got the idea. That's what I wanted to say. You can still do it.
Also, the reason that we mock return value once is that Jest, and also it doesn't clear the mocks in every test case. So here since we are just like setting the mock once, in the next test case, it wouldn't set the mock. So just to explain the difference of the API, why not like mock implementation?
Yeah, but because Laura, you are going to explain why did we use find. So why did we use find and not get here?
Nice. So when we render the component, it's going to dispatch a request to the API. It's going to be asynchronous. So let's say that it's going to take like 1 second. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. It's really slow, but yeah, let's say that it would take 1 second. So then the response would come and the UI would update. So this takes time. All the process here would take time. And Find uses an API behind the scenes, which React testing library already exposed, which is called wait for. So it's another function, but findBy already uses, so you don't have to duplicate and use like wait for and then getBy, for instance. So you just
Mm.
use and then what findBy does is that it's going to return a promise which is saying there, and behind the scene it's going to like make a lot of tries to see if the element is already found, and if in a certain interval in a certain timeout, by the way, you can also change the default timeout and the interval by passing some options. But if the element isn't found in a certain timeout, then the promise is going to reject. But if it is found, then the promise is going to be resolved and the assertion is going to work. So that's why when you have to use findBy is when you are making an assertion based on asynchronous operation.
Exactly our case, because we are fetching the data from the external API. And even though I've mocked the function here to just return the value, for our component, it doesn't really matter, because how it will work inside of the component, as we are using the asynchronous function, and we are just returning the value instead of resolving the promise, it will still work as a resolved promise. It will just be done immediately. That's it. So we still have to use the find by syntax.
We also have to think that React it's not synchronous regarding to state update. So sometimes, especially when you are expecting a return from a promise, it can take like some milliseconds to set the state. And then in this case, it is good to use find by because of the asynchronous operation, the whole operation.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now we have the text, and we can write the expectation. Right?
Yes.
Expect text to be truthy, because we are expecting that we found this element.
One thing, we can also install a library called testing library just done. Do we have time for that? I think no, we already have it. Okay, you have already installed it actually. It is
Mm?
there. Testing library just done. So instead of using to be truth, you can say to be in the document or to be visible, and this is more how can I say, it's more likely how the user would expect, like
Yeah, I'm also
you
looking for the word. It's more eloquent, I would say. It's more fitting the situation, let's say. We're not really expecting the value, we're expecting that it was rendered. So we are more specific. And it's good to be specific, because when you read the test, you build the right expectations. That's good.
yes. So now that's it. That's the
But it's
test.
gonna fail
So
anyway.
now we have to fix it. And there's a good thing. We can also use the debug helpers from from testing library.
Let's do it.
So you can use the screen.debug. Actually, it's not. It's in the screen module, which is really cool. So that's why I also like to use the screen. If you use like screen.debug, it's going to print. I don't know if it's going to print there. It should print, but it's going to print the tree of the
Yeah, I don't
component.
know where is it supposed to. Let's run them again, and let's see where will we have the output. I'm not sure, because I haven't tried it.
It's on the test summary, but I don't know what's not working. It should work actually. I don't know. It's called sandbox, but it works perfectly when I'm doing locally. There's also another method, which is get playground URL. I don't know if you have heard it, but testing library has a playground. Um,
What?
and yeah, so if you go to the docs really quickly, I think that's a
Yeah,
cool thing to show. And you search like for playground. Um, not yeah, this one. So there's a testing playground,
that's
and
cool.
you are able to like run your tests and grab the items. So
Okay.
side of the hanger, the screen, actually, there's a method called it get playground URL or something like that, and
Uh-huh.
then it's going to generate a URL for you where you can yeah, that's exactly. I don't know if it works with code sandbox because it's not local, so I don't know how it works, but
That's the thing I wanted to avoid, and I wanted to share the code sandbox with viewers, but if it does not, then what we do, we can just go to my workspace, npx create react, and quickly copy the code there. Do we still have time? Because it's like 1.5 hours.
yeah, we have half an hour, but
Yeah.
I think that it's enough.
Let's do our best to to have some finished result to not disappoint
Yeah,
our viewers.
we're going to finish. It's not like 10 test cases are just.
Yeah, just a few. Yeah, but I think we've already
But
discussed a bunch of interesting things. Yeah, sorry.
this playground URL, it's one of the interesting things. It really helps. It really helps, especially if you're making an assertion and it doesn't work. You don't know why it isn't working, and then you can log into the playground and you're able to see what is being showed in the screen in the test. Like you can see, like, okay, so the component's not showing this element. That's why the tests are failing, and that's really nice.
Hmm. Okay, and there was a bright idea from the chat to just download the sandbox, but it's too late. Too late.
Thanks, chat.
Yeah. Okay, it's your project. Where is mine? This is mine. New folder. And then here we create a new file. Up, test. Yes. And here we paste it. And then here we don't really need React because it's newer React version. And here we copy the app.js. I think we're not doing anything. Oh, you said I'm gonna have to install the React something DOM, right?
Yeah, there's like testing. I think that testing just done doesn't come with, yeah, it doesn't come with React, create React app, but testing library React comes. Yeah.
Okay, we can check in the package.json. Just DOM is here.
Oh,
We're all good.
it comes with all. Nice.
Yeah. Why is it complaining? Oh, of course. API. And we create the API module. Cool.
Nice.
We are good. And look, we have this little thingy here, and our suit is failing because.
It is failing. But it was supposed to, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to, but it was supposed to fail a bit differently. We should have the cross. So probably it failed more miserably than it should have failed.
That's sad. Okay,
Let's
but
see what's going
now
on.
we have playground, and it's easier to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just mock. Can find module API.
Not fun.
Oh, of course. It's my bad. We are in the tests folder. That's because I really got used to putting the tests along with the components, and then yeah, and then same here. No, not same here.
No, oh, I see.
Cannot find more. And of course, same with the app. Yeah, you see, it's very important to work in an environment that is comfortable to you, and I'm not used to this approach. I don't see anything bad in it. I will totally adapt. It's just that I'm used to a bit different culture of testing. And
In this case, I also use absolute imports. So that's for me. I usually don't have this kind of mistake, but I'm used to it. So it's really a stylistic thing. The main thing that you should care when writing your tests is really those approaches, like what are the use cases, how are you structuring the test cases, and like especially knowing how to mock, how to spy things. But besides that, I think that it's really what is faster for your team.
yeah,
Should
exactly.
be confident.
And for example, arguing about this or arguing about tabs versus spaces, and yeah, it's absolutely unnecessary. It doesn't matter at all.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, actually, we had a bunch of real issues there. For example, I didn't import the API. When you mock something and you want to use the name of it, this name get jokes random, it wouldn't magically appear, which we didn't get in Code Sandbox. And I had to import it as well, so we can use this name, but now it's actually this mocked version of it. And we've moved a little bit further. Now, how can we check the log? We can do it like this. Debug, and now debug start debugging Node.js.
When you run the test is also, it's going to show the URL in the exact moment that you're printing. So I think that you can also run the tests and grab the URL. It's going to print on the terminal.
Okay, I'm gonna do this then. Terminal yarn test. And we have the URL. It will probably open it on another screen, so I'm gonna cancel. That was a button copy. I forgot about it. So bow.
So that's what you see after rendering the component. So right now, this is also, it exposes like some carries.
It's so cool.
This is really nice because sometimes you ask yourself, what is the carry that I'm going to use? And this playground really shows what is going to be the best one regarding to accessibility. And you don't need to go to the docs and like remember what is the best carry in the case.
It is so cool. I really love it. Thank you for sharing. I think it's like one of the greats, the greatest shares of today. I really love it.
Yeah, that's really
cool.
So, for instance, like we can use findBy whole instead with text box, and then we could do the assertion with the text. Also, after doing that, we can put the screen log testing playground URL after defining method, because in that way we would be able to see if the UI updated or not. In this case, it's not updating because we already tested before, but
why is it passing? No. It shouldn't. Okay, that's good. So what did you say next? I was typing, so got a little bit distracted. Sorry.
Actually, it's findBy whole because it's asynchronous.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
totally.
now we can grab the log testing playground URL and move after the findBy whole method, because in this case we would be able to see what happened after executing the asynchronous request. So right
Uh-huh.
now it's failing, and we doesn't know why, but we are going to fix and make the test run.
Mm-hmm.
Probably is something in the effect, but we just have to discover what it is.
Yeah. Command click, copy, and then paste and go.
So yeah, it isn't showing anything, which means that, oh, it shows the value, you see there. So the value is empty.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't receiving anything. So we have to discover why.
Yeah,
it's not setting. It's not setting. I think the test.
we can be fancy, and we can, for example, just debug it at another breakpoint inside of the app component itself. For example, I have concerns about this part. I think this is where something funky is going on. And then inside of the test, we can actually click debug button, which already was there. I don't know why did they make it more complex than it should have been. And now the execution will stop exactly here. Yes. And then we can check. Okay, it's checking the types. Oh. And now we can see. How do I see the environment?
I think that is on the bug tab. I think VS Code has a debug tab where it shows like the yeah. I've only know the debug tab, but I don't know if it's showing for you. I think it is in view.
Editor layout. I think I'm just trying to act smart, so I removed that tab command palette. No. Mm. Yeah. So, a good advice to everyone to not feel like me. Do not customize things beyond your comprehension.
That's so true.
Yes, that's exactly what I did here. So I've hidden this thing on the left that would allow us to see this thing. Okay. Um, Otherwise, we would see what is maybe no. Maybe no. Maybe no. Okay.
So, the problem is exactly in the line. Okay, we know that.
Okay. Look. Look.
So,
Look. 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 If I.
oh,
Uh,
nice, nice,
but I didn't.
nice.
Yes, but no, because I don't know how did it happen. Um,
But I saw it.
yeah,
It was like
and then it
milliseconds, but
disappeared.
I
Uh, Debug panel, debug. Okay, we can stop being fancy. We can stop the debug mode. We can just add logs, whatever. I give up. Doesn't matter. Looks stupid.
okay.
We will get dislikes. People will unsubscribe. Doesn't matter.
So I think that if there's not related with the effect, like the set text line, would be probably related of awaiting inside of the effect. Although I don't know if that's exactly the case, but if that's not the case, maybe there's something wrong with the function itself.
I think there probably is something wrong with the returning value or something. But let's see.
Okay.
Test joke. We actually have the text test joke.
Okay. So it's actually setting.
Yeah, it's actually setting it to the right value. So here, console log test joke, and then we set text to be a proper one, and then it's supposed to set the input value to be text. Okay, then probably it happens on the next render. So we first render the component, then the sync event happens, but wait, shouldn't have. You know what happens, I think? The findBy actually helps us, but it waits until it finds the text box, right? Then it finds it, resolves, and it's the first render of our component, where we just render everything with the default values. Then, after we render the component, the use effect comes into play, and it performs the asynchronous request. But for us, it doesn't matter anymore, because we already are checking if the text value equals test joke, which is of course not the case because it's still an empty string. So what we can do there is to wait for I don't know how good is this idea, to be honest.
That's really interesting actually, because actually, oh yeah, I see your point. So the thing here,
Wait, it's not wait for, it's some.
you are finding by hole. Then you're just like finding the input, right? So maybe you can find by text, right? And that would resolve right away at the top. Yeah, I think that would work.
Yeah, right now I'm doing nothing.
Yeah. Oh, we need to await too. That's one of the things that we forgot. Find by is a promise, returns a promise. So we need to
Exactly.
await.
Yes.
Uh, I think that's exactly the case. So um, it's going to work right now, I think. If not, we can just find by text. But
I think it worked. I want to see it fail. That's very important to see if your tests fail.
yeah, it's really important.
Now it failed. Can you please?
That's why also the playground URL wasn't showing the value, because we weren't arraying. We're just yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yes, nice.
I think it passed now, and now I can say foo bar, and it should fail. Please, please fail. Please, please fail our test. Yes, it did. Great job.
Yeah.
Yay, we wrote one test. Thanks, Laura.
And now you can go to the playground URL and you will be able to see the input field.
Will I? Yeah, actually, we were still having the test runner watching our tests by default. I think that's the correct thing. And we should see the thing in the stuff. That's called abstract speaking.
And then we will see.
No. I accidentally copied the value from the URL.
I was thinking like.
Wait, I'm confused.
I don't know. Like, it should be filled, but if it doesn't, the playground is wrong.
Copy.
Open a new tab.
Paste. It's a new one, right? DWE. It starts with DWE. It starts with DWE. We are good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's joke. Hooray! We did it. That's awesome.
Nice. Now let's go to the next case.
No. No, Laura, we have 10 minutes only. Well, we can. If you promise we can do it fast, then we can try.
Okay. So let's just test the clear. Like.
True. It's gonna be fast.
Yeah, let's just test. So in this case, we can change the mock to always return test choke, or we can like yeah, we can start initializing it on before all, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we click on the button, and then I assert that
You know what? I would write describe on click, on button click.
yes, nice, very nice. One group of logic is related to the initialization, and the other one is related to the interactive part, which
Yeah,
is clicking on the.
I usually group them by the aspects like we do here. So for example, one is describing what happens on mount, another one what happens on button click. And sometimes I also group it by inputs. So for example, what does it mean? Describe with valid inputs. And then it means that we are expecting it renders, wait, what I'm doing to do. It renders the value. And another
Nice.
describe would actually be with invalid values, inputs, it renders an error. And then you have a very simple to follow, very easy to follow structure, some sort of skeleton, where, okay, I need to test the correct inputs, all the edge cases, like you said in the beginning of the stream. Like we want edge cases, yeah. Pam, pam.
That's really nice. It's it's an approach that you can follow to every form, every type of input data.
Yeah, and have less things to think about, because that's one of the important aspects of developing software, to keep the mental load, the amount of thoughts that you have to keep in your head, limited. And so, for example, consistent styles, consistent naming, consistency overall is one of the ways to do it, because eventually, after you get used to some specific style of doing things, you don't have to think about it anymore. So right now I'm using test, and it's unusual for me, so I have to relearn how to reformulate the descriptions so they still make sense grammatically. But anyway, let's get back to the test. We can copy, I think, a big chunk of it, but instead of text, we're going to use button, right?
Yes.
And it has a role button. So roles are something that elements have by default. So you can notice that text box is a text box. It's not an input. That's because all kinds of inputs, so for example, text area, input, what else? Select, no, select is not a text box. What else? I think that's it. Two of them will have text box type. Button by default is a button. Checkboxes are what? Toggles? Yes, I don't remember.
It's a button. Which I think that is really nice to use findBy whole is that I've already caught some cases where developers use div for everything. Really, like was really bad, and they were using always getBy text in every single assertion.
But
and
I like getBy text, to be honest. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. But when you use findBy whole, sometimes it's a kind of a tool to make the developer use the correct element regarding to accessibility.
Yeah.
So that's nice too.
I'm using text because usually this is what the user sees. Like for example, the worst thing you can use are styles. Like use classes to address some specific elements. That's the worst. It has nothing to do with functionality usually, and it can change more frequently or independently from the component itself. So then you're doing to yourself a bad service. So your test can fail even though it's not the component is not broken. That's the worst. Fetching by text is just how do you call it? I don't know the word. Let's just deal with it.
I got your point.
Not eloquent. Okay. So if you use correct findBy role, getBy role, or getBy text in the right circumstances, you're doing a better service to yourself. So let's continue. Fire event click.
Button. And then
expect.
since it's yeah, it's synchronous. It's kind of synchronous, so
Yeah.
we can just
Expect. We still need the input. Uh,
you screen find by whole text box,
yeah, you're
and
right.
actually we can use we can use get by whole
Yeah, because it's
because it's not
asynchronous.
and yeah, I think to have value. Nice, nice. There's also another one. There's like to if you want to assert regarding to a value, you can use like not, and you can put like not to have value.
Yeah, and you can
It's
combine it with anything.
yeah, that's nice. Um, and then you can like remove the dot value because the assertion is made by the element and not in the value itself. It's a screen
Oh,
dot get by whole.
yes. Yes, yes, yes. I've heard you. I've typed what you said, but I did not process it with my brain. Okay, this can happen. But our test is
Okay.
passing. Let's make it fail. Let's remove the not.
Okay, so basically, what happens here? To have value is from just done. So the assertion is based on the assertion is based on the element um, instead of the a value that is based on the DOM element. So what you have value does, it's that it grabs the element that you are carrying and it verifies if it has a certain value. So for instance, there would be to have value, and then if you say like not to have value, you can also then you're saying that it's not going to have a value.
Mm.
That's it. But I'm thinking because in this case you actually not to do not to have value. You would do like to have value, and then you would put an empty string, for instance, because it's clearing the input,
Yeah,
right?
because I need to
So
assert the positive effect of what I did. And actually, we have a good question in the comments. For example, why did we use await find by role here? Because I think we're intentional in this thing. Because we want to continue only after our component, not just render the. Am I saying something
yes.
stupid?
So no, that makes totally sense. So here, in fact, it wouldn't be necessary to use find by whole in that case, in that specific case, because we are not expecting something right away. So you can hinder and you can just get the button by whole. So doesn't need to do a wait and click it. So in that case, there's no need to use asynchronous, I think, because it's not an asynchronous assertion. It's you are executing a carry of an element that is already there on the DOM. You just need to interact with it.
Looks here instead of DOM. No, did you? What?
Oh, it's get by whole.
Yes. You know what's the problem? I want to make sure that our component actually had the value test joke before we click the button. Because otherwise, what if our use effect didn't run at the moment, and then
Okay,
we
so in
thought that we cleared it, but we didn't?
yeah, nice. So in that case, uh, yes, you're right. So in that case, we will have to use find, and then we have to wait for the find to load. We will have to wait, and then these expectation would pass, which would mean like, okay, the input is already filled, and now that input is filled, we are going to perform the action to clean it. Okay, that's nice.
Okay, now I'm pretty certain that everything is fine. But could you call the what I don't like is in what we did here is that usually the tests follow this simple pattern of AAA, arrange, act, assert, and for us it's let's say arrange, assert, act, assert, So it's like, okay. But it's quite clear what we want to prove here. Like we want to make sure that the values match what we provide from the API and what we see on the screen. And then our button is not just clearing already empty input. That would be just silly.
I'm afraid that if we didn't do it, would be like a race condition because you'll be able to click the button and the text wouldn't have loaded yet.
Exactly.
So
and then it would load
you
afterwards.
Have to wait. Yes.
Cool. So I think we did a good job here. We didn't cover it completely because we still have this little paragraph which I added in the bottom that is showing only, but it doesn't make, I will just remove it and we consider it done. Good job.
I think that we test the two main functionalities, which is like initializing the input and cleaning the input.
Yeah.
And this is nice. So we tested like we know how to do mocks based on a module in parts. We know about the carries. We're explaining like find by, get by, and also like the playground thing was really cool. So
yeah,
a lot of the good things.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. I'm gonna switch back to stop presenting. Do you see me there?
Not yet.
No?
Not yet.
My camera turned off. Please turn on again. Wait a sec. Well, anyway, no, it should work now. Please, camera. Okay. Hello.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, thank you so much, Laura. And just before the stream, actually, we were discussing like Minecraft toys, and I decided that it's a good idea to send Laura this creeper. So we'll try to do this after the stream. So that was very educative. I've learned a bunch of things. Thank you so much.
Nice. I'm very glad to be here. I've also reviewed a lot of things.
Yeah, that's really nice to conceptualize, because when we just work, we often do things without thinking. We just know that it's a good thing to do. I'm pretty sure. I hope so. And then when you conceptualize and you turn it into words, like I'm doing this because of this, and that, it's always good. It always puts a good foundation for you, for yourself even. So, great stream.
Nice.
Thank you so much. And I hope to see you again on one of the streams. I think we still have a bunch of things to discuss, even about testing. I think we took too much time writing the component and setting things up.
Yes, there's a lot of things that we can cover regarding to different types of tests. Is also like end-to-end tests are a really like a big topic, especially in React. Cypress is a big thing, so it would be nice to cover.
Yeah, actually,
subjects.
let's. What if we have another call sometime in the future, specifically about end-to-end and Cypress? I would really love to discuss it.
Let's go.
Yeah. Awesome. So thanks everyone. Thanks, Laura. See you next time.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.